Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening again, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. And we would love for you to do that. It's a great organization. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. And Rodney, we're going to stay with recruiting because Alabama, it's a cold summer. That's what Courtney Morgan has dubbed it, and it's just they're on a roll. The Crimson Tide, after landing a five-star cornerback Dijon Lee from Mission Viejo on Friday, Kalen Deboer and staff struck gold again in California today, Rodney. Four-star tight end Kaleb Edwards from El Dorado Hills announced his commitment to the Crimson Tide, 6'6", 240. He's an elite tight end, 44 catches for over 800 yards last season, runs well for his size, very athletic, can also block. He joins fellow California standouts, offensive lineman Jackson Lloyd, linebacker Abdul Sanders, cornerback Chuck McDonald, punter Alex Asperoff, and quarterback, as we mentioned, Dijon Lee. As Alabama commitment to the class of 2025, this might be a record for the number of commits for Alabama from the state of California. So let's start right here with the most recent. Tell us about Edwards, rated a top 5 tight end in the country, according to the recruiting services. What's he going to bring to the table here in Tuscaloosa?
It's right there on tape, man. We're watching. This is great video right here. You can see his size. You can see his athleticism, how well he runs. And, I mean, look at that. I mean, you know, you talked about him being 6'6", 240, Gary. There's some people that have seen him in person and say, look, this guy can weigh 270. I don't know if you actually want him to get that big, but he's got the opportunity to be an imposing figure on the line of scrimmage as a blocker, but also just the athleticism, the catches there. You mentioned his statistics, 44 catches, 7 touchdowns. This is one of the top tight ends in the country. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, Gary, as I look at it, you mentioned he's from California. Alabama now has 6 commitments from the state of California, 5 from the state of Alabama.
Hey, go West, young man. What does this mean in terms of tight end recruiting? Will Alabama try to get in a second tight end? Nick Townsend, for example. What's going on there?
Yeah, Nick Townsend's a great player out of the state of Texas. I think he ends up at Texas, unfortunately. But they're still in with Andrew Olish out of the state of Pennsylvania. Some people think he'll end up at Michigan next week. But Alabama's certainly been in that one very strong as well. So, you know, we'll see. Yeah, we will.
All right, let's stay in California. And as I mentioned on Friday, Dijon Lee, the thing that jumps out at you is his size. You're not used to seeing 6'4", 190-pound quarterbacks. Some say that he's the top prospect in California. ESPN does. This is a guy that was highly coveted around the country. But again, Alabama, with that strong West Coast connection with its coaching staff, able to get a commitment from Lee, Rodney. And again, I just can't stress corners with this type of size. This is very, very rare.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you look at him, Gary, again, he's a guy that's a really big guy that runs really well for his size. They're very difficult to find corners this kind of height that can make the plays on the ball like he can. But, you know, again, Georgia, you talk about every program in the country would have loved to have had Dijon Lee. And I think, again, goes back, both of these guys, whether you're talking about, you know, Dijon Lee and all the guys out in California, actually, you know, Kalen Deboer and his staff had recruited most of these guys when they were at Washington, so they built those relationships really strong. They laid the foundation there, and it really was beneficial to Alabama.
All right, July, we know how fruitful June was. July's off to a fast start, too. With Edwards today. Let's look at some guys that are going to be making decisions that Alabama's involved with. Let's begin with Justin Hill, linebacker out of Cincinnati, expected to announce tomorrow. Ohio State, clearly the team to beat here, but Alabama's in it.
Alabama's definitely in it. Oregon's in it really well also. So there you see the picture with Freddie Roach, who's done a really good job of recruiting. Christian Robinson there on the far left, Kane Womack, of course, those coaches visiting him. He's a really talented player. Again, Alabama last week got Dawson Merritt, as we've talked about. They kind of play the same position, but Justin Hill, right now, Gary, if you push, I'd probably say Ohio State, but then again, you know, you just never really know when these announcements come up.
And on Friday, we've got Damen Shanklin, four-star defensive end out of Indianapolis. This is another situation where Alabama's trying to make up some ground. It looks like LSU's the favorite. Ohio State's in there as well. Is there a chance Alabama could pull a surprise here?
He had a great visit, and I love his frame. I mean, it looks like he's, 6'5" at least, and, I know he's pushing 245 close to 250. He's got it's really going to fill out, extremely athletic. You mentioned Warren Central High School there in Indianapolis. It's a tremendous program. They play a lot of really good competition up there in that area. So look at him. I mean, this guy's a really good-looking player. He would be a great defensive line coup if Alabama could land him.
All right, we'll be watching for him on Friday. Let me ask you about a couple more prospects that Alabama's trying to get some movement from. You've got an interesting player in a defensive lineman, Floyd Bacard, who played at Mobile Christian. He's down in Miami now at Miami Central. This is a guy originally, I think, from Canada. Alabama's got a connection there. I know you really like him. He's not as rated as high as some other defensive linemen, but you think that he's a really good prospect. And, again, the ties here to the state gives Alabama a good chance.
6'3", 315 pounds. Very hard to find those guys, Gary, that are athletic, that are that size, that can play on the interior. And you mentioned he's only a 3-star. I think by the time this process is over, he's going to be rated up there, in the top 75 prospects in the country. He'll be a solid 4-star player, I really believe, because finding defensive linemen like this, very difficult. Alabama, Miami, probably his top 2. Based on a couple of things I've heard, I'm going to give Alabama the edge here.
Wow. And some players that we previously mentioned on TITV that Alabama's hoping to get commitments from. Let me bring those guys up. Ty Haywood, Caleb Cunningham, and Kalen Deboer. What's the latest on those 3?
Well, Ty Haywood, we're really waiting on him, the 5-star offensive tackle from Denton, Texas. Alabama, Florida State's trying to make a little push here. Oklahoma's been in there. Caleb Cunningham, of course, one of the top receivers in the country from over in Mississippi. This guy's got everybody in the country after him. The 2 Mississippi schools, Auburn, you name it, they're on the list. He named Alabama his leader a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully he comes through. A.K. Deere from over in Mississippi at Quitman, which isn't too far from here.
Antonio McDyess's hometown.
He's a tremendous running back prospect. He was committed to Ole Miss. He decommitted last week, I think, with the intention of committing to Alabama. It's a matter of when.
Yeah, all right. We're going to keep you up to date here on TITV. And, of course, Rodney, TiderInsider.com. Anytime there's recruiting movement, he'll have it for you. All right. These players are hoping to become future All-Americans. Of course, Alabama has some talented players on its roster. Now, 4 Alabama players making the annual Walter Camp Preseason All-American list. Offensive guard Tyler Booker made the first team. New kicker Graham Nicholson also on the first team. Of course, he was the Lou Groza Award winner from Miami of Ohio last year. He's transferring in. Washington, this is interesting. Washington transfer center Parker Brailsford, who really didn't even do anything in the spring, and we don't know, if he's going to win the starting job, is a second-team All-American along with the punter James Burnup. Rodney, so 4 players Walter Camp All-Americans preseason.
Yeah, and obviously Booker, he may be the elite interior offensive lineman in the country, and Graham Nicholson, what a big pickup that was as a portal guy, replacing Will Reichert. I mean, tremendous player. You mentioned Parker Brailsford, Gary. Look, there's a lot of high hopes for him. Last year he was all Pac-12 second team as a redshirt freshman. A lot of high hopes for him.
All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television. The Reese Senior Bowl had its Hall of Fame ceremony on Sunday night. A couple of former Crimson Tiders going into the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame, and its annual celebrity golf tournament yesterday. Kalen Deboer, Nate Oates, and more were taking part in that. We're going to tell you all about it, and we'll talk more about how visible and how many events this coaching staff has been attending this summer. Plus, a little bit later on, we're going to be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, that phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. There's the email address on your screen. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide and has been for nearly 25 years. Tider Insider TV will return right after this timeout. The Reese's Senior Bowl Hall of Fame induction ceremony was held Sunday night at the Grand Hotel in Fairhope. And then on Monday, they had the 4th annual Senior Bowl Charity Celebrity Golf Tournament, raised $65,000 for some high schools there in the area. The Senior Bowl inducted 5 new members into the 35th Hall of Fame, including 2 former Crimson Tiders, Marty Lyons. Hard to believe he wasn't already in. And also D'Amico Ryans. Ryans took part in the golf tournament, as did that man, Alabama head football coach Kalen Deboer, defensive coordinator Kane Womack, who last year at this time was representing South Alabama as the head coach. And there's Alabama basketball coach Nate Oates. They were all on hand. And Rodney, this coaching staff, not that Coach Saban's staff wasn't, but they got out some. I don't think they got out nearly as much as Coach Deboer and this coaching staff is. I mean, every week you see them at a golf tournament or a speaking engagement or some type of pep rally or it's just unbelievable how visible they've been. And I wonder if that has been a big part of this recruiting success.
I think it is. I think making himself known to everyone is certainly really valuable, especially in the state. I know that when he initially got here, he met with a lot of high school coaches, whether it was in South Alabama or other parts of the state, that I think made a really strong impression early on, very helpful. So to have that kind of exposure, to expose himself, the staff and all of this, I think it's obviously really beneficial for recruiting.
Of course, you got Kane Womack, who coached at South Alabama. Coach Deboer's been in that area down in Mobile a lot, and why not? I mean, that is one of the recruiting hotbeds, not just in Alabama, but really in the country.
Yeah, I mean, you look at one of the greatest players in the history of Alabama high school football last year, Ryan Williams.
And speaking of Ryan Williams, it is time for Coach Talk. And Coach Talk this week is going to focus on Ryan Williams, because you know what? He is a tremendous, tremendous player, and he's a guy that, was committed to Alabama, then he wasn't. Like he was going to wind up at Auburn. But Coach Deboer came in here, and 15 days after Coach Deboer took the job, he was able to get a recommitment from Ryan Williams. Now, we watched Ryan Williams in high school at Saraland, and Coach Deboer obviously has seen the tape too. He says that since arriving on campus, the transition for Williams has been seamless and smooth, and he's expecting big things from the freshman playmaker.
The transformation on top of just how quickly he fit in, and a lot of times guys that come in with the expectations that everyone has for him, it gets hard. But that transition and just him fitting in with the team, he's just, done his thing and goes about his business and proven that he's going to be a great player here. I'm excited about, his growth, and he just retains things so well. He processes and has just made that transition very smooth.
Well, Williams coming out of Saraland High School, the 5th-ranked recruit in the class of 2024. And remember, folks, he reclassified. He could still have another year of high school football. Can you imagine that? Already a 2-time Mr. Football by the Alabama Sports Writers Association. Again, Rodney, he's one player, but I think for Coach Deboer, we remember Julio Jones with Nick Saban, right? Right. How that elevated Alabama. I think Ryan Williams could be that guy for Coach Deboer. You don't get Ryan Williams, and all of a sudden, it might have a different feel to what's happening in recruiting.
It has a lot different feel. Let me tell you, I think 15 days after Kalen Deboer, became the coach, or 15 days after Ryan Williams decommitted, and then he gets him back in the fold, I think that sent a really strong message. I think it sent a very positive message to Alabama fans. There were people saying, hey, can he come down here and recruit? To be able to close the deal on Ryan Williams the way he did, look, that built a lot of confidence, and now we see how things have continued to roll. Yeah, well, it's looking good, and the good thing about Ryan Williams is you'll see him this year on the field. As I said, he could still be playing high school football, but I don't blame him for reclassifying. I think he's ready for the next level. I really, really do. All right, still to come on TITV, Coach Deboer, not the only head coach at Alabama trying to upgrade the talent level with the roster. Alabama baseball coach Rob Vaughn, more so than football, needs to do that, needs to do it in a hurry, and he's going to get some help from a player from one of the top programs in the country and in the SEC. And up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, that phone number, 205-348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen. We want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation, and we'll do that next, right here on TITV. Well, Alabama needs a catcher. Matt Gassetti's moving on. He's out of eligibility. So what did Alabama do? Well, they went out and got one of the best catchers in the SEC. Brady Neal was a top player at LSU, which we know how strong that program is. He is now transferring, and he is coming to Alabama. This is a huge pickup for the Crimson Tide, because last year he batted .276 with 9 home runs in 42 games. They brought in some other top transfers as well. And Rodney, as we know, this is a guy who was drafted out of high school in the 17th round by the Brewers and could wind up being a much higher pick the second time around. We know you still want to recruit high school prospects, so let's be honest. You've got to use this portal. This is a whole new way to build your roster, particularly with a guy like Rob Vaughn, who's just going into his second year. Yeah, obviously the portal works both ways, but to have the opportunity to build your team, like you said, Gary, it's a great opportunity. When you need this guy right here, I like to look and see what are the people from the other schools saying about him at LSU. They did not want to lose him. No, they did not want him to go. So that tells you something right there. Big-time pickup for Alabama baseball. All right, it's time to get some big-time pickups on our phone lines. And our pal Reg over in Birmingham is going to lead us off tonight. Hey, Reg. Reg, you there? All right.
Got to bring him up. All right, let's take an email and see if we can get it straight with Reg. Okay, let's get to an email and get back on the line and see if we can get Reg on. Okay, let's go to an email question while we're trying to get the phone line straightened out. Can we do that? All right, we'll do the email question of the day. It's brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. And the question is, if Alabama basketball goes undefeated and wins a national championship, will they be considered the best college basketball team ever? That's from Tori in Tuscaloosa. I tell you what, Indiana's the last team to do it. They went 31-0. Won the national championship in 1976, beat Alabama along the way. Kentucky had a chance a few years ago. I would say, yeah, in this day and age, if Alabama were to go undefeated and win the national championship, yeah, you could make an argument. Of course, that's going to be very difficult to do. But if that were to happen, Tori, Rodney would probably go down as the greatest team in college basketball history.
Yeah, you'd have to say. And look, I think probably that Indiana team you talked about, you referred to Scott May, Kent Benson, they were a great team. Alabama had them on the ropes. Maybe should have won the game.
Yeah, could have won it. 74-69. Alabama led late. Had that Booker Turner official that made a tough block charge call on Leon Douglas, and Indiana pulled it out. All right, we're going to try Reg again. Hopefully, Reg, we got you straightened out. Buddy, how are you? Reg. Okay, let's take another email question. We'll get to the break. We'll try to figure this out with the phone lines. Let's get to another email. This is from Bradley and Coleman. How many running backs will be in the rotation this season? Good question, Rod.
I think 3. I really do. I think when you look at this, they're very talented. Obviously, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes. I think Richard Young's a really, really good running back. We saw some of that. And, there's some young guys. Daniel Hill, I thought looked pretty good, showed some promise there in the spring, and got a kid coming in, the local kid, Kevin Riley from here in Tuscaloosa.
All right. Phone lines are open, I'm told. Of course, I don't know if they're working or not. But 205-348-WVOA, that's 348-9882. Give us a call because we'd love to hear from you, and hopefully we can get it straightened out. Reg, if you're still there, maybe we can get it figured out and get you on. We'll be back with more TITV right after this. Well, the Detroit Pistons have signed Alabama guard Aaron Estrada to an Exhibit 10 deal. That's according to Draft Express, and now everybody's reporting it. Exhibit 10 deal is essentially a tryout contract. The Pistons have until the start of the regular season to determine whether they want to convert his deal to a two-way contract, which will guarantee his salary for the season. During the 2023-2024 season, Estrada helped lead Alabama to the Final Four, 13 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game. I'm just going to tell you this. He had 10 hard hat awards. Rodney, he's a player. I would be very surprised if he doesn't get that two-way deal with the Pistons. And I'd be very surprised if at some point, we don't see him in the NBA. I think we will.
Let's hope so. I mean, like you said, the hard hat, he 10-time winner. This guy's on the court, man. He's a blue-collar guy. Yeah,
great pickup last year. Alabama, I know they don't go to the Final Four without Aaron Estrada. He was a very important cog, and Alabama's turning him out now in the NBA. And even though he didn't get drafted, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it. All right, let's get to an email question, and this is going to be from Marvin in Tuscaloosa. Do you guys believe that Deboer will play Tai Simpson a lot in the first 2 games? Obviously, it looks like Milroe is going to be the starter, but I would think there'll be some opportunities for Tai Simpson in these first 2 games against Western Kentucky and South Florida.
Yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope that opportunity arises. I think, when you start looking, you always want to have a backup ready. Listen, you never know what can happen when your quarterback goes down. I think Alabama's very fortunate with the quarterback room they have. I think Tai Simpson's extraordinarily gifted. I think he's going to be a really, really good player when his opportunity comes. Dylan Lonergan, Austin Mack. It's a really good quarterback room.
Yeah, it is. And I've said on WVOA23.com, they're making me do some bold predictions for football season. My first was, I think Jalen Milroe is a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. So I think he's going to have a huge year, but I'm like you. I like those other quarterbacks, too. I think Alabama is strong at what is still the most important position on the field. Well, still to come, thanks for the phone calls, and even though we had trouble getting them on, the emails as well. Still to come on TITV, Alabama will be represented in the Paris Olympics. We'll have more on that coming up. And also, we will be back to close out this edition of TITV on a beautiful evening. Hot but beautiful here in Tuscaloosa. We'll be right back. All right, Team USA Olympic trials are over with, and Alabama will once again have representation in the Olympic Games coming up in Paris. Former Crimson Tide track and field member Daniel Hoff is heading to Paris after winning gold in the men's hammer throw with a 79.51 meter toss. That's a huge, huge throw. Here he is right here. Watch this, right? Watch the power and speed he generates, man. I mean, he won this thing by quite a bit. Also, former Alabama high jumper Shelby McEwen is going to Paris as well. He won gold, clearing a height there in the high jump finals. So congratulations and good luck to both of those Olympians for the University of Alabama. All right, before we close out the show, Rodney, we talked about recruiting at the top, and we did an in-depth look at who Alabama's recruiting and hopes to get commitments from. One thing I didn't ask you is, I guess I could update you every week on this, already 21 commitments in this class. How many ultimately, because it looks like Alabama's not slowing down, do you think they'll wind up signing?
You know, I think if they can get 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that they really want. It really depends on how many they want, because the 25 limit's not necessarily a factor. Mm-hmm. It's 85, and that's hard to predict with the portal and all the things that all the variables there. But I would say somewhere between 27, 28.
Like I said, TiderInsider.com will keep you updated. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa.com. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch a replay at 10:30 following the news at 10, or anytime at WVUA23.com. Next week's Tider Insider TV is going to be a day later. We're going to do it on Wednesday next week. Make a note of that. Wednesday next week for TITV. We're going to leave you with some video of former Alabama basketball player Marcus Campbell's 22nd annual Future Stars basketball camp down at Sumter Central High School in York, Alabama. Boy, he does some great work in his home county. He played at the old Livingston High School, but still helping out there at Sumter County. We're going to leave you with that tonight. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night.